timers here tonight? So, oh, wonderful. And just so you know, first timers, we also have a bunch of World War II veterans in our room. Would they raise their hand, please? And once again, they outnumber you, but we're happy to have you.
We're interrupting your meeting.
Charlie's going to interrupt the meeting. Welcome.
Second speaker just arrived.
This is Heim, and you'll hear a lot more about him in a little while. Welcome back, Heim. It's been a long time since you've been with us, and we're happy to have you back. You're welcome. Please have a seat. We'll get going. And while we're at it, why not? Let's just recognize all the vets in the room. Any war, any conflict, any time. All vets, please be recognized. We're all amongst friends. Now, somebody says, who are you and what is your organization and why do you wear blue shirts and things like that? So let me take a second to introduce myself. I'm Kirk Gibson. I'm president of this Rowdy Bunch. Charlie Lloyd, who gets most of the credit because he does most of the work, is our vice president. Rich Burton, secretary. Bob Watkins, somewhere in the back room, he's our treasurer and bookmonger. Does a great job selling books. We have several directors who are most of them wearing shirts. Laura Pasquallo and John Horn, somewhere here, and his brother, of course, is our videographer. Rick McCann, John McCann, Ed Shostall, Terry Heisel, Chris Huffman, and of course, the inimitable Bill Jackson, President Emeritus. Most importantly, though, and unrecognized at the time, our helmet committee, consisting of Rich Lytle and Frank Rowe, they're the guys who will be at the door, helping you get out the door, and they'll look you right in the eye and say thank you for your kind contribution. It helps keep us going. So thank you. Our website will be undergoing some changes soon, but it's still www.centralpa, www.roundtable.org. All you can do is Google Central Pennsylvania World War II Roundtable, and you'll see a lot about us, who has spoken, who's going to speak, and things like that. Our dining captain, Bev Barb, is back. She's the one that you have to call the Friday before the meeting. The next meeting, I think, is November 2nd, so please call. All right? And she's on the postcard as well. Bev has a brief announcement to make. I'll believe that when I hear it, but she does a lot of work for the on December 7th and the Pearl Harbor vets, and so she's entitled to say a couple things.
Oh, okay. Hi, I just got the flyers the other day for our annual Pearl Harbor Remembrance Program. This year it is on Sunday, December 3rd at the Lebanon VA Medical Center at 1:30 in the afternoon. Immediately following the ceremony, we have a luncheon reception for the hospitalized vets, and then that's in Building 18 at the VA. And then at 4:30, we have a big USO dinner dance at the Lebanon Expo Center, which is a mile away, with a live swing band and a full hot and cold dinner buffet. It's all free of charge. Everything is done by donations and volunteers. I have the flyers. Anyone can see me afterwards and pick up a flyer. But one of the ways, like I said, it's done free of charge. One of the ways that we're able to fund this is by our Bonton Community Day books, which we are, as a nonprofit, entitled to sell for $5. We get to keep the entire $5, which goes to our Pearl Harbor program and to help needy veterans and their families. We help about a dozen veterans and their families throughout the year, and especially over the holidays. So please see me to buy your Bonton Community Day books. They're $5, and it's from November 8th through November 11th this year. So see me after the meeting.
Hands up! Rick Burton has a couple of things to say. First about the Vietnam vets and another very special program.
It's tough getting good help. Vietnam Roundtable's next Thursday, and that's October 12th. Bill Woodworth, if he's here, Bill Woodworth, stand up. He was a backseater in an F4. He was the weapons officer. He'll have a lot of stories to talk about that. So that's next Thursday, 7:30 at 8000 Dairy Street in Harrisburg. I have a lot of information back there on the table. If you're a Vietnam vet and you need a new hat, just stop back and pick it up. Also, we have a school visit coming up at Lower Dauphin. This is for all veterans of all wars. So this is Monday, November the 20th, from 11 to 1 in the Lower Dauphin High School library. Steph Chortnoff. Steph, if you'd stand up, please. Steph's the teacher in charge. You can see him, or you can see me, and I can put you in touch with Steph. So we need to know no later than Wednesday, November 15th. So thank you very much. You're supposed to give it to Steve?
Yeah, good.
Okay.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Steve Smith. I'm representing the Hershey and Harrisburg Civil War Roundtables this evening. We've got a lot of Civil War events coming up in the coming weeks, starting on Saturday, the 14th of October at 1 p.m. at the National Civil War Museum. Their executive director, David Price, is going to give a program on medical experimentation in the Civil War. Admission is free. Then Thursday, the 19th of October, the Hershey Civil War Roundtable has its meeting at Country Meadows at 7 p.m. The topic is Stonewall Jackson's final days. The following week, Friday, the 27th of October, the Harrisburg Civil War Roundtable will meet at the Camp Hill Radisson Hotel. Paul Bretziger will speak on the topic Hancock observed at Gettysburg, focusing on General Hancock's activities on the first day of the battle. And the following morning, the Hershey Roundtable, Saturday the 28th, Hershey will host its family caravan tour led by licensed battlefield guide Bob Eschberger, who will focus on females, farms, and families affected by the battle, or as he likes to put it, babes and barns for short. So we meet at the Gettysburg Visitor Center lobby at 8:45 a.m. and the tour lasts till 1. You can make a contribution to his favorite charity. But the big event that's coming up is our fall field trip. I have an easel posted out in the lobby and some flyers on it. To make a long story short, the theme for this fall's field trip is the Shenandoah Valley Campaign of 1864. We've got an outstanding guide lined up, National Park Service Ranger with 33 years of experience, Eric Campbell down in Middletown, Virginia. We're taking a bus. We leave from Central Middleton at 6 a.m. There's another pickup point at the Radisson at 6:30, and we'll spend the entire day looking at 3 of the most critical battlefields in the fall campaign that led to the re-election of President Lincoln. So very bloody, very consequential. We still have plenty of seats available on the bus. These are a lot of fun. You can learn a lot by walking the train with a subject matter expert. And if you'd like more information, pick up one of our flyers in the lobby and on your way out this evening. Hope to see many of you there. Thanks.
Great. Thanks, Steve. And you may be interested to know that the only Civil War veteran in our room is Bill Jackson. And one final, really important, I hope, announcement. A gentleman, raise your hand please, who asked me who picture. So whoever talked to this gentleman about groundhogs, would you please identify yourself to him? He has something for you. And it's not February, but it's probably important to somebody. There we have it. Okay. Now, back to business. October, World War II. Being October, I'll give you a couple of things that happened in October. Not many, I promise. On October 2, 1944, the Warsaw Uprising ends as the Polish Home Army surrenders to the Germans. October 10 through 29, Soviet troops captured Riga, the capital of Latvia. October 14, 1944, the Allies liberated Athens and Rommel commits suicide. October 21, a massive German surrender in Aachen, Germany. And October 30th, thank God, the last use of gas chambers at Auschwitz, 1944. Over in the Pacific, on October 11th, the U.S. conducted air raids against Okinawa. October 18th, 14 B-29s landed on the Marianas, based on the Marianas, attacked the Japanese base at Truk. That was a big attack. On the 20th, the U.S. 6th Army invades Leyte in the Philippines, and of course you all know about the big battle at Leyte Gulf, which was October 23 to 26, resulted in a decisive U.S. naval victory. During which, on October 25th, the first suicide, aka kamikaze, attacks occurred against U.S. warships in the Leyte Gulf. By the end of the war, Japan will have sent an estimated 2,257 aircraft. Admiral Halsey later said, that was the only weapon in the war that I feared. Nothing you can do about it. So, okay, that's what happened in 1944 in October. Charlie, you can put the paper down. Yeah. Normally you get somebody to read it to it, but Charlie's going to tell us about a little bit about some future speakers and then introduce tonight's speaker. And yeah, come on. Thank you for your kind attention.
There are some very big words in there, Mr. Stoner. Good evening and welcome. I'm glad you have such a nice crowd. Preparing for something like this, I found some papers. This is the Paxton Herald. They publish all our meetings. So you see the speakers, look for that, and they're in there. Here's one from Community Courier. We're written up in that. I won't go through the names and all. We also work with 50 Plus News. They've been very, very good to us. Invited us to the expos they have, veteran expos, and there's an article in there about us. The one I found this week was rather interesting. Our founder was in Henri Chapelle Cemetery to visit his dad. So look for the son, and a very nice article on Bill and his father. So I wanted to share that. Get rid of the papers. And then turn this around. November 2nd is our next meeting. It's going to be a little unique. We're going to try and pull off the Blitz. September 7th, 1939. Richard Boyd, where's Richard? Oh, right in front of me. Richard Boyd was in London. He was exposed to the Blitz as a young man. We had Douglas MacArthur here a couple months ago. He was in London, exposed to the Blitz. And also a nurse by the name of Kathleen McNally. And they all got together in a hangar in World War II days in Reading. And it was amazing to hear them discuss what they went through in the Blitz. So we thought, well, let's get them together, put them here on the stage, and give them each 10 minutes or so, 15, to talk about the Blitz, what it meant. And we're going to pull that off on November. Kathleen, unfortunately, has problems with her back. She can't make it. And she's going to send us a document, 5 or 6 pages of her memories of what it was like through. Now remember, these were youngsters, but nevertheless it was frightening. I was a youngster in World War II. We had air raids, but we didn't have bombs. this will put a little more dimension on that subject. December 7th, Pearl Harbor, Day of Infamy. We had Sergeant Dick Schimmel coming from Allentown. He was there on, help me, Opana, the radar station. And also, we have, Joe Arcroft was there. Joe spoke for us several years ago. But we'll have a Pearl Harbor, actual Pearl Harbor survivor. What am I saying, actual Pearl Harbor survivor? You got one right here. There's our other speakers, Hank Heim. He was in Pearl Harbor. He was bombed. He was blown up with bombs and everything else. I should have said that right away, shouldn't I? So we're going to have Pearl Harbor survivors. And also Winnie Wool is going to come. She presents her mother and 3 of her nurses in Pearl Harbor, and it'll be a vignette on what the nurses went through in Pearl Harbor. Joe Kuchar, where are you? Right there. Here's a guy who's always looking for speakers. We need to get speakers. This past week, I've talked to, 2 weeks I've spoken 6 speakers, 94, 95, 96, 97, and today 98. You get a census, we need to have a sense of urgency here. Joe called me and gave me a name of Don Conley in New Cumberland. And he's going to speak for us in January. He's 97, 8th Air Force out of Mulberg, B-17. Flight engineer, turret, 303 bomb group. I think they were called the Hell's Angels. So we have a lineup I think should be interesting, and we also need to get more speakers, and we're challenged with that. I'm going to slightly introduce the speakers tonight. I'm going to let them handle it from there. I ran into Bill Fili at the air show in Reading. He's always there. We talked a little bit, and he shared with me the fact that he was in Italy. He was in Mandoria, 17th, and he flew 34 missions. 34 missions. Flight engineer and a burner. And he bombed Regensburg, Messerschmitt plant. That was the heaviest defended by the Germans. And the second was Blushcher, oil field in Romania. That was the heaviest defended. He was on a bombing mission. He got blown up. Or as our ex-Marine used to say when he was in Iwo Jima, blowed up. And he became a prisoner of war. Through the underground, they found out about it, and then we sent a B-17 for him. And the fellow came in late. Well, we're not late for school, too. It's Hank Heim from Trevorton. He is the pilot that picked up Bill. I'll stop the story there. But it's emotional. So I think with that, I think if I introduce you, William, and you, Hank, you guys can handle it from here. All right? Let's do it. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Bill Fili, B-24, flight engineer, 17th. And we also have Hank Heim from Trevorton, B-17 command pilot.
Everybody hear me? Yeah. I can't hear myself, I've got my hearing aids on. Is mine all right?
It's on. It's green.
Say something, it's the microphone part. Hank, say something.
You're going to say something? Say hello? Hello.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Thank you, Charlie. Ladies and gentlemen, and youngsters that were here, it's such a pleasure to be here, and particularly having this man here with me. It's a long story what we went into, and how we met, had a drink, and then we had a little bit of a rhubarb, didn't we? I wanted something back, didn't I? And they wouldn't give it to me. Well, let's tell the whole story and let them be the judge whether you're going to give me it back or not. Well, it happened to be that on this one particular day, I was it was my 26th year at the Running Air Show, being the keynote speaker. And the jet CEO of the airport wanted to have a cocktail party for World War II veterans who flew. And I happened to be one of the ones that was invited up, and I went up to his office. I saw a lot of people there, and somebody said, "Why don't you sit in this chair here?" There's 3 other fellows that were sitting there. And I sat down, and we kept looking at each other. We didn't know how to start talking. I said, "Well, how about we introduce ourselves?" So the first man over here, he said, I asked, "Well, what did you do?" I flight P-51s. I said, "You flew over Europe?" Yeah. I was out of the 8th Air Force with P-51s. And I said, "Well, do you have any stories to tell?" I said, "Well, I had a share of bogeys. I shot planes down. We never talk about we killed somebody." And I said, "Well, is there any fantastic story you have about shooting one down?" He says, "Yeah, one sticks in my mind pretty soon." He said, "I was flying along over Berlin. I'm just trying to get back in my formation. This German jet just went whizzing by me. He never saw one before. And finally, he caught up to him and he shot him down. And he was the only P-51 pilot that shot down a German jet. Well, I'm in good company for now and then. In the middle, he said, "Well," he had a German accent. He says, "My name's Hans, whatever. It's called Hans." And he said, "What did you do?" He said, "You were in the infantry?" No. I was Fili. I was a pilot. He said, "I flew Stuka Drive bombers over London and all over Europe." I said, "You ever on the Russian front?" No. I stay over Berlin. That's fine. So I said, "Well," and then you have? He says, yeah, I got one. I said, I can't forget. He said, well, what is it? He said, he's the guy that shot me down. True story. So, then, my buddy here, Heim, he stood up and he didn't want to talk. And I said, well, come on down, tell me. He said, well, all right. He says, I was at Pearl Harbor when it was bombed by the Japs. I said, oh? My mind was, well, I'm in real good company right now. I said, well, what happened? They said, well, because I was at Hickam Field and I was running, trying to get away from the strafe and the Zeros that were coming in. I said, were you one of those ones that a newsreel that a guy was running on the rank? He said, I probably was. He said, I was running away from him. So he said, well, you were in the infantry. How come you were flying a B-17? He says, well, all the infantry that was at Pearl Harbor were sent back home because they were through hell and they'd rest and recuperation or something, and new assignment, and new fresh troops came in. And he didn't want to stay into the infantry. He looked at the bulletin board, and they were looking for a big sign up there. They were looking for pilots, right, Heim? They were looking for pilots. He said, that's for me. So he put his name on the list, and he got called right away. And he ended up being a B-17 pilot. I asked him, I said, well, you had bombing missions like everybody? Yeah, we got bombing missions. And he wasn't standing out in your mind. He says, yeah. He said, I still remember the one job I had. I think I was a flight leader taking B-17 over to Romania without guns on the planes. So you're going to pick up prisoners of war. And that's where it went. And my eyes opened up and my ears started going, they flapped right there. Oh boy, I don't know how to. I've been looking for 63 years for somebody, because the man that I got on the airplane with, after we got back to Italy, I jumped off the airplane. Maybe you've seen movies of a man that got down on my hands and knees and kissed the guy, and so I was the guy that did it. The photographers made me do it. We were happy that day, and I jumped back into the airplane. I wanted to go up to the cockpit and find a pilot. I wanted to shake his hand, protecting me to freedom. I couldn't find him. He tapped out the hatch and come into the airplane. And then I asked him, I said, then you came over to Romania and you landed in the grass field. He said, yes. I said, that was a hairy drive, because you landed on the grass field, didn't you? He said, no. I said, you landed safely. You didn't go shut your engines off. 20 men jump on, and he's looking at me like I'm nuts, telling him what he did. And he's looking like this. Where did this guy come from? So I said, then you flew back that land, you jumped off. And I said, well, on your flight back, did you talk to any of the POWs? He says, no. He says, but they had this one kid that was standing between my co-pilot and me, and he wouldn't move. And he kept trying to tell me to go sit down. I said, no, I'm going to make sure you're going that way. You're not going to go another way. I want to go home. I said, I'm going to run the line. I'm going to check out and make sure that you did. And we got there. In the meantime, we did a little more talking. I said, did he give you anything? He said, well, no, not really. He gave my co-pilot a couple of Romanian coins. I said, did he give you any? He said, yeah, I got them. I said, you still got them? He said, yeah, I got them. I said, well, can I show them to me? He says, no, I got them right here and here. I said, well, if you can get them, would you do me a favor? And he says, yeah, I can do you a favor. I said, give them back to me because I want them. I'm the guy that gave you the coin. This is one of the more happy ending stories that come out of World War II. How to have this man. And he ended my quest for 63 years. Because every air show that I went in on, and hear about a pilot that flew the prisoners out of Romania. The reason that it was a big story was that they rescued 1,160 prisoners of war, all 18, 19, 20 years old, out of Romania in 2 days without a single casualty. That was a feat. This is my angel, the guy that gave me to my freedom. Where's my son here? See? This man helped me make you. Well, we had a good time there. We've been buddies ever since, and fortunately we're getting a little older and everything. And that particular day, we had our picture taken, didn't we? Well, I happened to have somebody that took that picture, and there it is, with a little inscription in the bottom, this is yours. I never gave you that. I climbed back into that airplane to do one thing. And I'm now doing that thing that I wanted to do. For shake your hand. For taking me to freedom. Thank you. It's now almost 80 years since then. But we're able to look at each other in the eye and I said, thank you, buddy. Well, I'd like to start a little bit more about the why we were freed in Romania. First of all, I was the word yes, it's fitting. I've got it on this video here. It says on the bottom of the top. It's fitting that the first all-out oil in the world, a world war that occurred, was all for oil, just to get people in. And it's fitting that it happened in Troyes. Troyes was where the Romanians had all the oil known at that time. The fitting of it is that in Troyes is the first active refinery that was constructed and put into operation in 1856, before any other of the would-be intelligent people in different nations. They were just spending time fighting all the wars all the time. But this, look, I'm leaving some here for everyone to see. This has the actual bombings of Troyes. It also has the film. The people who came in to rescue us were men of the OSS, the forerunner of the CIA. And as you know, the OS and the CIA, when they go away on a mission, they also take cameras with them. Photographers to make sure they have a record of what they do and what they did. The night that we were freed in that prison camp, I was stargazing in the compound that was in the hospital grounds in Bucharest. I decided I'm going in, go to the bunk, and I started to lay down in my bunk. And then all of a sudden the sergeant of the guard came in. And he was trying to get his shoes on and everything. He came running over to me. He had his hands like this. All he could say, and whispering, was "Pace, Pace." I told him, "Peace," he said. I chased him out of the way, and he came right back. He got down on his knees and "Pace, Pace." He said, "Madruta Casa. Dadukia Casa." If anybody speaks Romanian, you know what I said. And I said that to different people who come to the air shows. I say that message. I said, now what did I say? And without a word, anyone, they all had told me that. I said, I'm going home, and you're going home. That's what the guard was saying to me, and I've never forgotten that Romanian word. Just then a general came into the compound. I'm standing directly in front of him. And he said, it's true that young King Michael told the Germans to get your troops out of my country. I'll give you safe passage to go out. He didn't keep his word. The general, the German general, said he will leave. The next morning, it was nice and peaceful. It was a clear day and nice. And he told us before the night before that the guards have their guns upside down on the shoulders. The gates are unlocked. You can go out. But please don't leave the prison camp. Don't leave, because we think the Germans are going to try to capture you prisoners of war and use us as hostages on their retreat from Romania. We all went to sleep that night. We didn't leave that day. Next morning we started to fiddle around, go around and see some of the people in Romania just a block away. And we found a beer hall. There was 5 of us that found a beer hall. We were in. We standing outside because I had a big picture of a 14-foot mug of beer. He came in, the fireman told us to come in. They sat us down. The waitress came in with their mugs of beer. And we all stood up. The 5 or 6 of us that really went like this. We're going like that. Just before our places hit, the machine guns went off. The Germans were not going to leave Romania without a fight. They had snipers in all of the tall buildings in the city of Bucharest, that just randomly shooting people in the streets, just like was done in Las Vegas. And bombers were coming over and bombing our prison camp. And we had one building in the camp that had all our wounded in there. We got them out just in time, but later on that afternoon, 2 heavy women lines come over, and each one of them had a 100-pound bomb under their wing and dropped it and destroyed the infirmary where our wounded were. We got the wounded men over into a building that was under construction and set up a little hospital in the basement of that building. This lasted for 3 days. 3 days of trying to get things that we needed to take care of the wounded, to take care of ourselves, to make sure we knew where we were and what we were at the proper time. We didn't have any guns just in case the Germans were going to try to retreat and get us. But in the meantime, we had one other factor that was going against us. Not only was the Germans trying to harm us, we had to make sure that we don't fight anymore against the Germans. The Russians were on the border. And as history tells us, the Russians were trying to get into Romania as fast as they could to capture these 1,000 prisoners of war and put them in the Russian army. Either that or they were going to kill us. Unfortunately, we got message to the Allies that we had to have these prisoners of war rescued. And the Russians were told to lay off. And the present day, you know, there was another book that was just written on that same subject about what the Russians did with the American prisoners of war who were overrun by the Russian army at prison camps. They could kill them. They have done that. And the title of that book is An Action Too Far. Or its subtitle was Beyond the Call, where this one pilot was sent over there to try to rescue all of these prisoners who were running around getting out of prison camps. Well, we were fortunate. We had a little safe area. We had an airport, and we had these planes coming in with men like Hank here to come over and take us to freedom, to come home to our families. How can I ever say thank you to you and all your men with you? How can anybody do that? I know you can. But it's such a wonderful thing to be able to stand here and say. During the course of trying to find safety and everything for our wounded and out of those buildings, we wanted to try to get a few of us anyway, we tried to get some guns to protect ourselves, just in case. And there was a civilian there that said, I can get you some guns, you have to come with me. We went with him and went to another part of the city. And when we got there, we found out that we weren't taken to that place because that place was a lot of insurgents. Some of them were Russians, some of them were Germans and everything. And they wanted us to join them. To take over the Romanian government. But we got out of there by the skin of our teeth. And on the way back to where the railroad station was, where our camp was, we were in the middle of the city. There was just one other fellow and myself. We were working our way back to we knew how to say the railroad station. We wanted to go to the railroad station and to get back and how we asked the civilians and everything. So they found out that we were in America. They all started screaming that the Americans are here, the Americans are here. It was two of us. And they were. You have to think of this. There's two Americans here. All these people. These 109s are coming in and are dropping bombs and on the people in the business district of the city of Bucharest. And they heard that the Americans were here. I still see them now. Those people got down on our hands and knees and prayed for two Americans, tattered Americans. Please save our freedom. They were begging two little soldiers in tattered clothes, save our freedom. How many of us would do that? The time of needs, save our freedom. The Russians will come in, they're going to enslave us. And when we were rescued with pilots like Hank here that flew us out of Romania, something came with those pilots to save the Romanians from the enslavement of the Russian government. King Michael sent a letter with Colonel Gunn. The reason that we were free was that one of a Prince Constantine Cantacuzino, his name, he was a Romanian fighter pilot. He's also shot down his share of B-24s and B-17s that come over the bomb of oil field. He was a cousin to the king. And King Michael, as well, he was only our age, 20 to 21 years old. And he sent this letter through the Colonel Gunn, who climbed into a fuselage of an ME-109. And that captain flew over German Hill territory and landed in Italy. And that message was sent to General Twining, commander of the 15th Air Force, who sent it on to Winston Churchill, Eisenhower, and Roosevelt. And the message was, please have the Americans or the British occupy Romania. Please don't let the Russians come in and enslave us. stories about Aunt Churchill said no. For that no, the Romanian people, as we all know in history, was recent history, they suffered a terrible enslavement for 45 years under the Russian government before they pushed to the now. Do you have any idea of what freedom means to people? I think I've given you the idea of what it is. There was a princess in Romania who came and lived in the United States for 30 years. She was in charge of 3,000 orphans in Romania. And when the Russians come in, they took all the orphans away from them, orphanages and everything. They literally come over to her house and threw her out of her own estate with the clothes that was on her back. And she escaped to Romania 20 years later, came to the United States. And she traveled here for 30 years. And all she did was try to find the American prisoner she found from the names of us, and she always came to looking just for a night's lodging, because she wants to travel around the United States, wouldn't take any money from us. She wanted to tell people how our freedom is in jeopardy. And her clean statement on that, her finishing statement was, if you ever lose it, you'll never get it back. Fortunately, our home country in Romania in 1979, 80, turned against the Russians and chased them out. And she was able to go home. She went home, and by the time she got there, I helped to orchestrate a nice send-off for her, a farewell dinner for her down in Texas. And she was able to go back home. And all she ever said she wanted to do was go home and be buried with her 2 daughters and her mother and grandmother. And that was on her 100th birthday. I could go on and on. I'd like to tell you the stories about what happened in flying in the air. When people tell you what happened in the air, they are true. They're not fiction. One story I want to talk about, I won't hit that anymore. Frank Gentile was on a race car on the B-24 coming off of Regensburg and come down through Yugoslavia past Siberia. And they had 2 engines knocked out. And he stayed in formation with 2 of the engines. And he thought it was out in safe territory and saved his power. Just as they pulled out of gun range on their formation, he was hit by 2 109s that come in and shot the plane down. Not that particular plane, but another one that was flying behind him. And the one that was behind him. And a man had a 20mm shell in his chest. They tried to stop the blood bleeding, and they couldn't. The crew did not know how to do it because it was 2.5, 3 hours to get back to the base. They were bleeding to death. The only thing they could do was to patch him up, try to stop the blood, put his parachute on him, help him out the window, and put a cord onto his whipcord. I saw that happen. I wondered why only one plane, one parachute come out of I later found out what happened. I said, no, and I forget you almost 4 miles up in the air to do that. Frank Gentile was picked up by farmers. The farmers took the gunner over to the German, the first aid station. And he was put in a prison camp after his wounds were healed. And he lived a full life.
I have flown 78 combat missions in World War II and 50 in Korea. I'm very sorry I didn't come prepared to speak.
You did. Good job.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's the real deal. These guys are the real deal. Now, a couple of quick announcements. Bill has some of his videos here for sale, $20 if anybody wants them. And he also has a couple of gifts for some of our people. He asked me, can you hear me back there? Yeah. Oh, all right.
Turned it off somehow.
Yeah, it's off. It's on. Hello? I fixed it. Bill has some of his videos for sale here at $20. And being the sort of guy he is, he said he'll sell them for $20 till he runs out. But then he says he's going to donate the $20 to the round table. What the hell? Secondly, we had a couple of things here that he asked me to pass out. He said, if you have any young ladies in the room, I'd like them to have this. Well, I think we have some back there. Would one of you come please and accept this for Bill? Or all of you, doesn't matter. And this, he said, pick out somebody, preferably of the male variety. And I can't think of anything better to do than to give it to a young man. Can you?
Some somebody has a history, but this is history.
Yeah, somebody needs to know history.
Yeah.
I think a young man needs to know
Let me
history.
explain what this one is.
Hey, Steph Jordan knows history.
Huh?
Steph
Well-
Jordan knows history. Steph.
This is what you've seen on probably war stories with Oliver North. And recently he's went to Romania again and he played that one about the Romanians, the ones that I was just talking about, what happened in Romania. And at the end of this film here, I was involved, I'm in the film there, the people in the cutting room cut too much of me out.
Well, Steph here is a history teacher, and he's the one who is getting people wrong.
But in here is, we orchestrated this and made a film of it. Oliver North was in the drawing room with King Michael. And there was just about degrees, and I walked in the other way, and then I started walking over. The king is looking, who's this guy coming over? And I put my hand out, and I said, Your Majesty, it's so nice to see you again. The last time we met was 62 years ago, because he only came to the prison camp one day while I was there. I shook his hand and he said to me, it's so nice to talk to somebody in that there, because all the people that he knew when he was young and in those days, they all expired, because life expectancy at that time, World War II in Romania, was only in the 50s. So he knew nothing of anybody. So this film was made because the citizens thought that when he advocated, when the Russians took over, he advocated because the Russian commissar came into his office and handed him a piece of paper and for him to sign. He looked at it. It was an application paper. He said, I'm not going to sign that. He said, you will sign it, and you will sign it now, because tomorrow morning, this afternoon, we arrested 1,000 students at the university, and you don't sign it right now, we're going to shoot them tomorrow morning. Young King Michael could not stand that. He had to. That was what. The people didn't know. They thought he was young. I mean, you know the history of his father. He was a typical cow. That's the story. And this is what is in here is true. As far as this other one, where's the... Oh, this is the...
Teach the children well. Please come down. Please come down.
I took it up.
And while they're doing that, while they're coming down,
Where is it?
I took it up to
Charlie took it up. Well, come on down.
He wants to say thank you.
All of you. What?
Where's it?
That was.
Oh, there you go.
See, yeah, Charles. You gonna explain what it is?
This is tells a little story of a young man who came back from the war. He was wounded. And he had to get toys for his children. And didn't have any money and went out and sold it. And he got locked up in prison. And this is the story of how his children That was their father out of prison. Something.
And now, what undoubtedly you've been waiting for is your reward for coming. Now, you two guys,
This is my reward.
well, yeah, but we got one for him too.
Oh, okay.
The highly coveted, world-renowned, World War II Central Pennsylvania Roundtable mug. And because actually this is Hank Heim's second appearance with us. Years ago he came and we didn't have mugs then. I don't know what I just did with the others. Oh, here, my hand. You get a secondary award, something to put your mug on. So there you are. Congratulations. Now, you're all invited to come down and talk to these gentlemen, but if you have any questions and answered, this would be the time to do it. We don't want to keep you here all night, but if you have any important questions that you can't wait, please ask them now. Here's one. How long were you a POW?
5 months.
How's it like it?
No.
I had a friend that flew he was a tail gunner at B-17 and flew over. He bombed Polesti and then up into Austria. And he had told me some good hairy stories. But I'm interested to know what was the normal altitude that you flew when you were going on a mission?
And Liberty was anywhere from 22,000.
You ever hear that?
B-17 flew at the same altitude.
I'm sorry, but I flew one mission, just one, 30,000, and I flew a few that were 28, 29. Mostly they were down in 25, 26, 27.
And that was in a heated cockpit, right?
Yes.
No heat in that cockpit.
Well, there was a heat, there was heat there, the first ball was flat and all. And suddenly, for some reason, we got very warm.
May I ask how old both of you are, Bill and Hank?
Beg pardon?
How old you both Bill and Hank are, and how long did you actually serve in the armed forces?
He's my father.
Me, I'm 96. And I flew combat World War II. I was also at Pearl Harbor when the Japanese hit it. I was enlisted man then. And right after the raid, I had an opportunity to take the test to become a pilot. And they didn't give me much credit because I didn't have any college. I said, well, I told them very nicely what we could do with that. I want to have a college, and I want to fly. And they took me up with a couple of colonels and these other guys. The colonel from down in the MBA and AA, that settled all the rigmarole.
How many years did you have?
How many were?
How many years were you actually enlisted?
I had about 8 years in the Air Force.
And Bill?
I'm 94.
And your total years?
Huh?
Your total years in the
6.5 years.
Could you describe for us the rescue mission? Could you give us any details on the rescue mission that got you out of the camp?
The whole rescue is on print in this.
He must have been a salesman.
I have something else to tell everybody. This is really for veterans and veterans' wives and everything. But I have a Facebook page, and a woman sent me an email, and very nice, and said, just saw your new picture, the new portrait you put on. Well, you look a pretty good, pretty nice guy. She said, I kind of admire people like you, that look like you and everything. She said, if you would like, give me a call, give me a phone number, her email and everything, and tell me what you would like. So I thought about it for a while, a day or two, and I said, I did write back to her, and I said, there's an age-old saying that beware of what you're wishing for. And I said, but I'd like to give you a little caveat. And I wrote and I said, I'm 93 years old. I walk with a cane. And I'm broke. You're not going to ask me? No, I did not get an answer.
All right, one more.
Ask Bill to tell the story about when he was captured by the farmers, because that's an amazing story.
When you were captured by the farmers.
I got hold. When our bomber, my crew's bomber got hit, they had a hole in the fuselage like that, and gasoline was pouring over there like a waterfall. That's what I heard on the video. Until another shell come up alongside. I was in the nose turret at the time, and blew everything going through the nose turret apart and knocked me out. And I came to when the navigator was pulling me out of the turret. Navigator, the bombardier, who was I was in the nose of the airplane. And they, the navigator slapped me in the face, brought me to because I was unconscious. And of course later I found out there was a bloody mess on the side of my face. I had pock marks and all kinds of stuff that was stuck in my face, glass and shrapnel. And they got me out and stood me up, and then they thought I was awake. They put my parachute on. It was a chest pack, and they just put it on. And then the bell rang to get out of the plane. And all of a sudden, the navigator, he went out the nose, and the to say that I must have went unconscious again. And in a few seconds, I woke up and they were out. And I tried to find my way to try to get out of the airplane. And, so I managed to go around the turret and the nose wheel. Then the plane lurched a little bit and I fell out. Good thing it coming down and the air must have woke me up and I started to as I said, pull this ripcord, pull the ripcord. Boy, I was upside down. Floated down, and I saw farmers all around. It was like an orchard, and they had children there, and farmers and their wives, and everything. And so we were warned if we have to bail out Romania, and get with farmers, make sure they think they know that you're an American. If not, if they think you're a Russian, they're going to kill you right away. So I told all the time, me American, me American. They understood. So finally the man came over and started saying, American. Kids came over and started patting my legs and being nice and friendly and everything. And all of a sudden, I thought, hey, I'm with the partisans. I think I'm going to get back into I'm going to be rescued pretty quick. Not so, it wasn't. Because two bearded men snuck up behind me and tied my hands behind my back with my leg west strap. And standing in front of me was a woman that said that she had a sad look on her face and everything, and all of a sudden she lunged toward me. And as she came toward me, I could think, well, this is the end of life for me on this planet. But she went backwards or something, and I could see out of the corner of my eye that she was pounding on somebody's chest. And I turned around, and there was a man standing there with an axe over his head, ready to slam it in my skull. And she stopped to let him from putting the axe in my skull. He dropped the axe, and some of it hit the shoulder over him. And then the soldiers came and took us to their little village and put us in a little room. Then there was a beautiful woman just came in to speak a beautiful King's English. And started berating us for coming all the way from America and bombing their little country. And we talked a little bit, and suddenly another guard brought in that man that wanted to put the axe in my skull. And he came over and he told the interpreter that he wants to apologize for wanting to put the axe in my skull. I said, would you ask him why he wanted to? And they were talking back and forth, and she said, well, a few days ago, a week or 10 days ago, there was an air battle right over their village. And as you know, air battle, all these planes up 4 miles up in the air, and they're shooting each other, blowing the planes apart, and everything comes down. He chased 2 of his children to get into the house to get away from the falling shrapnel. But then the veil is Orchard kids were killed. And I didn't have the courage to tell them that I was on that mission. the air battle was so fierce that I ran out of ammunition, and for the rest of my life, my bullets when I killed those 2 kids. And that woman that stopped him was the mother of those 2 kids. That's all I could think about. That's another one of those of survival.
Did any of the crew members carry a small pistol?
We never took them. We never took, we always left them back in the barracks. There's too many SS troops have captured American parachutists and then shot them with their own pistol. The SS were a very mean bunch of people.
Okay, one more.
Were the guards in your camp, were they Romanian or were they German?
No, King Michael had to deal with the Germans, and his soldiers got out. Allied soldiers were captured in Romania. They were to be his prisoners, King Michael's. That was the deal he made. He had the oath, but he don't take my prisoners.
Thank you.
Okay, we're running a little over time. I want to thank you all for coming. I hope you enjoyed this evening. Please come down and say hello to Bill. Come back next month and please visit the helmet committee on your way out.